You're listening to Radio Free Rhinecliff.
Welcome to Studio Property, the cinema podcast for people like you. I'm Doug Wortell.
And I'm Devon Irby, and this week we are discussing Polish film Ida, circa 2013.
And why did we pick a Polish film this week, Devon?
I requested a Polish film because this episode drops on Casimir Polaski Day. For those of you who did not grow up in Illinois and have no idea what I'm talking about, let me fill you in.
Yes, please do that.
Casimir Polaski, and I think I'm actually saying it wrong. I think it's Casimir Polaski.
Casimir sounds good though. It's all
Casimir sounds like yeah. But that's the way I always said it as a kid. That's the way I always heard it as a kid. So
yeah. So who is Casimir Polaski?
Okay, right. He was a American Revolutionary War cavalry officer who was born in Poland. And so he's praised for all the contributions he made to the U.S. military in the American Revolution. And he's known as the father of the American cavalry. But it was this Polish guy. And again, for those that don't know, so you think, that's a random American war hero that apparently some people celebrate. The reason he is celebrated is because in the state of Illinois, the lovely, beautiful city that is Chicago, has the largest Polish population outside of Poland. There is a huge Polish population in Chicago, and then lots of, just generational Americans that, however far back there's a whole bunch of Polish people. So
do you have
right?
like kielbasa carts just rolling around Chicago?
Basically, yeah. I feel like Cody Ramone should have been on here to give us a couple of little tidbits about it since he lives in Chicago. But yeah, you can get lots of if you want a good pierogi, you go to Chicago. If you can't go to Poland.
Well, I know this because you and my wife grew up very close together, right?
Yes.
So, and she told me you guys got off school for that holiday?
We did. So the state of
bananas.
I know, it's bananas. So the state of Illinois.
Almost random, it's almost like a Wes Anderson holiday.
It is.
It's just completely made up.
Yes, it is. So
it's something you hear on Parks and Rec.
You're right. Casimir Polaski Day does sound like a Parks and Rec made up holiday, 100%. But no, it's true. When we were kids, we got that day off of school. It was a thing. And it's literally because Chicago has a massive Polish population. And yes, you can get all sorts of Polish food related goodies if you ever find yourself in Chicago.
It makes sense to me because in Brooklyn, we got off all of the Jewish holidays because we have a lot of Jewish people.
Okay.
Right. So
yeah, that makes sense.
But did you guys do anything weird? Did you I don't know, what do Polish people do? Did you have to play Polish games or?
No, but no, my family. This was more when I was in high school and just out of high school. Actually, when my husband and I first got married, when Brian and I first got married, my parents and a bunch of their friends, we'd all go bowling, and it would be Casimir Polaski Bowling Day.
Okay, now what do you do? What does one do in? Do I want to know? Is it just Is it just a regular bowling night and they just slap his name on it, or is it?
It's a regular bowling night and they slap his name on it, and then we just basically celebrate the day, celebrate the holiday. We all would go bowling and then take a group photo.
Is beer cheaper, or do they do a different thing? Or
nope.
Oh, all right.
In fact, making it even weirder. Because of where I grew up, I lived really close to the state border. So I remember one year we actually went over to Iowa to a bowling alley nearby. So we celebrated the Illinois holiday in Iowa bowling, which has no historical significance to Poland whatsoever.
Right. Or Iowa for that matter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You were trying to migrate the holiday and it just.
We were trying to. Yep. So that was a thing. Yeah. So.
Casimir Polaski Day has been inside of us all along.
Yes,
that's what we've learned just now.
It is, isn't it? So that's why I was like, let's do a Polish film. And then, of course, I don't know much about Polish cinema. I don't know that you do, other than the Color trilogy.
Well, that's just a Polish director, right? But that's in French.
Yeah, but still, it's kind of considered. Yeah,
ish.
It's ish French.
You can make the reach.
Polish ish. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, did you pick this director because his name almost sounds like Pulaski?
No. I picked it. I picked the film for the film. So I basically researched, lists of what are considered the best Polish films ever made. And I was looking through them. And what caught my eye about Ida, one, the fact that it's so highly touted, but is much newer. Because apparently Poland had like a real Renaissance period post World War II because of the film industry they had just went all down the tubes during the war.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess shouldn't be a surprise considering they were such would the appropriate term be battleground area of World War II? I mean,
sure.
Poland, right? I mean, it's the first
Let's
place
go with battleground.
it's the first country, they got invaded. So many of the concentration camps were put on Polish soil. I mean, there's all these things. Like, it was
that's a
at
lot.
the heart of a lot of what was happening. And so
they didn't have time to really develop their
no, they did not have time to develop their cinema. So many of the movies on this list were these like post World War II films, kind of up into the 80s, and they looked interesting. But Ida just really caught me, and I was like, this is the one. This is the one we should watch.
I'm glad you did because I absolutely adored the movie. But, we'll get into it. Yeah. But after I read this copy.
Oh, yes.
That I got to read. Yeah, okay. So you ready? Ready for this, manager?
I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
Okay. The 2013 micro masterpiece, Ida, was the first Polish-speaking film to win an Academy Award. Now, I'm sure there are some of you out there who would clap back. Of course it won an Oscar, guys. It deals with the Holocaust. Hollywood loves that shit. To which I would respond, well, you're part right, but then again, let's talk about what it isn't about instead. Also, you're a fucking moron. It's true, though. The film does deal with aspects of World War II, and those aspects aren't pleasant. But the film isn't about war. It isn't about politics. It isn't about perpetrators, dictators, nor liberators. It's about Ida, a young woman we meet in the year of our Lord 1962. The film isn't even an hour and a half long, but I can promise you it'll stay with you for a long time after it's over because you've not seen anything like it. Now, my cousin and I tend to go on and on about cinematography, yada yada, nausea. But every frame of Ida's 4:3 aspect ratio features one sublime composition after the next. Now, full disclosure, I've seen both versions of this film. The one where I wasn't high off my tits on 2 gummies in a catatonic state of awe and wonder, and the other version, too. Both times, I was reminded why some of us choose to differentiate the word cinema from movies. Devon, hit that theme song.
Put that prop gun down. Put back the canisters you stole. The devil laughed out loud when you signed away your rotten soul. That studio property, your studio property. Hey! Shut your mouth or you'll never work in Hollywood again.
I'm going to just tell you right off the bat before you roll credits because this is going to be one of my favorite episodes. I can tell you going in, not just because the movie is wonderful, but because you're in charge of the franchise segment later on. But also I get to watch you pronounce a lot of Polish names.
Oh, and I want you to know, I made a point of not practicing. I just thought, no, I'm just going to go into it knowing it's going to be horrible. Everybody's just going to have to deal with it. And we're just going to deal. It's just going to be what it is. It's going to be what it is.
You're going to raw dog some consonants. That's great.
I am. It's exactly what's happening. Oh my gosh. All right. So here we go. All right. One Ida is directed by Paweł Polaski, although I have the feeling it's probably Paweł. I'm guessing that their W's are probably V's. So I think it's probably Paweł Polaski, who is actually a Polish-British director.
Well, I think he was born in Poland.
Born in Poland.
But he went over to the UK because he met a woman.
No, I think he went over with his mother originally.
Oh,
as a teenager. Yeah, as like a teenager.
Oh,
and then spent some time, I think, with his mother in Germany, and then ended up back in the UK.
Right, because he linked up with, what is it? She's a playwright, Rebecca Linkiewicz.
Yes.
I think I got that right.
I'm not even going to repeat it because I think you did. And so speaking of, she and Pavel wrote the screenplay. So yeah, Rebecca is the nice, easy part. Yeah. Oh, actually, no, hold on. I think it's Lenkiewicz or Lenkiewicz.
Every time you try it, it's funnier. So by all means, yeah, let's go with that.
Okay. All right. Cinematography. This is one of our easier ones. Lucas Zal.
Okay. How's that spelled, by the way?
Z-A-L. But Lucas has a Z on the end. L-U-K-A-S-Z. Lucas Zal, apparently.
Those people out of control.
Apparently.
I have a feeling like the design of their names are just villain.
Yeah, yes. Okay, so our second cinematographer, I'm going to really butcher this one. I would like to think that his name is Richard, but it's Rizzard?
Of course it's Rizzard. It's Rizzardaz. That's what it is.
And he has a similar name to Rebecca, but instead of Lenkiewicz, it's Lenkzuski. But I bet it's like Lenchuski.
No, they threw They threw a vowel at the end of it.
They did.
That's nice.
Yeah, it is kind of nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then our music and score, which is going to be probably quite a topic for us today.
It's multiple people, but
yeah. Christian Eidnes Anderson, who I believe is actually not Polish, but I think Danish.
And it features music by Neil Sedaka and John Coltrane.
Yeah.
Who, I don't know if you know this. In communist Poland, right? Jazz was a big deal.
I did not know that. But it does explain chunks of the film now.
Yeah. I don't know if it's like the same thing as like in France, right? In France, it was almost like the sound. It was like the music of like resistance, right? Or I don't know if it had those connotations in Poland specifically.
Okay.
Like I know, like when Miles Davis got his head kicked in or beaten by a cop, that happened in America. But when he went over to France, he was worshipped.
Yeah.
Like a cultural icon, right? So it just meant something completely different over there. So I'm wondering if that's the same sort of thing in Poland. I don't know.
That's a
Polish
good question.
people are more than welcome, by the way, to chime in and also get angry at us for butchering these names. You can go to studiopropertyshow.com and you can go to the About Us thing, and there's actually a form where you can send us notes directly.
Yeah.
And Devon will read them.
I will read them. Yeah. But if you're going to correct us, make sure you like phoneticize the pronunciation so I get it right. That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll have to do like an apologians episode.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into this cast. Okay. And it's not a huge cast. It really isn't. We've got Agata Kuletsa, who plays Wanda Gruz, one of our main characters, the aunt. Then our other star is also Agata. Oh, but she's Agata Trizbukowska.
And Agata's like almost like, is that like an Agatha situation over there?
I kind of maybe think so. Yeah, I think it would be like Agatha.
It's the Jennifer of Polish names, probably.
Right. Yeah, probably. It probably is.
That's how you end up with two of them in the same film.
Absolutely. Yeah. And she plays our Ida Liebenstein. And then we've got, I think, David Ogrodnik. Wow. David Ogrodnik.
David Odenkirk.
There we go. David Odenkirk. He's Liss. Oh, this next one's going to kill me. Adam Siskowski. Oh, maybe that wasn't.
Look at that.
Siskowski.
Look at that. It sounded right.
Yeah. Although, looking at it, I actually have a friend who is, now that I'm thinking about it, more than likely got a very aggressive Polish last name. And how this is spelled, and I'm thinking about how their name is spelled, yeah, I'm probably ruining that.
Did you go to school with a lot of Polish kids?
Surprisingly, no. But then I also I grew up in a much more rural area, and Yeah, I did not. I am not from Chicago, not from one of the suburbs, nothing like that. So no, there really wasn't.
Right.
Where I grew up, a lot of Irish Catholic and German and Dutch immigrants. Clearly, when I say immigrants, y'all know what I mean, which is like multiple generations back. So you go to school with a girl named like Natalie, and her last name is super Dutch, right? Or Jennifer, as the case may be, with like a super German last name or a super Dutch last name that's been super duper Americanized.
Right.
Not unlike my maiden name. Not unlike my maiden name. Same kind of thing. So, okay. So this guy, Adam, is our friend Felix Skiba. And then Jersey Trela plays, I think it must be Simon Skiba.
Yeah.
It looks like Sizumon, but I think it's Simon Skiba. And then the fun one is pop star Joanna Kulig plays a singer in the movie.
Yes.
No name. She just the gal who sings for the band, but she's an actual singer and apparently relatively popular.
Okay. Well, I'm sure popular over there.
Popular over there, yes.
Yeah.
But I believe she also does some acting as well. So yeah,
She had a wonderful voice.
She did. Their version of throwing Lady Gaga in, as you like to do when we got like a movie with some singing, and you're like, let's put Lady Gaga in. I feel like that's what they did here. But her name is Joanna Kulig.
Whether it's a psycho killer or an alcoholic who's going to drink himself to death, Lady Gaga is required.
Exactly.
Well, like I said, I adored this movie. We have to address a couple of things that you'll notice right out of the gate when it starts. Is it is in an aspect ratio of 4:3, right?
Mm-hmm.
If that language or math seems a little weird to you, if you've seen Late Night with the Devil, they pulled the same sort of gimmick to get it. But like it's meant to make it look like a period film by making it look like a period film. So at first glance, you're like, oh, it's a Bergman movie. And then, the story kicks in. You're like, this is clearly not a Bergman film,
Yes.
But the movie starts in a convent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Ida is about to take her vows to become a nun.
Yes.
And she is, how old would you say she was?
She can't be more than 20. I would say late teens, possibly early 20s.
But before she could take these vows, the, I guess, Mother Superior, right, tells her, hey, why don't you slow down on this mission and maybe meet your only living relative? Who,
of course, poor Ida did not know existed.
Yeah. So why don't we get into Wanda a little bit?
Okay.
Who is Ida's aunt.
You know what? Before we hit this road, we probably should point out that Ida's name is not Ida yet. Ida's name is Anna.
Oh, yeah.
In the convent, right? Anna in the convent. Or is it Anna or is it Agnes? I have Anna.
It's Anna. It's Anna.
Is it Anna?
It's
okay.
Anna. Yeah.
I saw Agnes was written down a couple spots, but I just figured it out. Agatha is Agnes. Oh my God. I just realized that because the articles I was reading kept talking about Agnes. And I was like, I thought her name was Anna in the film, but I think they were talking about the actress. I don't know. Okay. I'm making shit up at this point because, yeah. So she's sitting with Mother Superior. So far, she goes by Anna at this point, and Mother Superior says, you have an aunt. And poor little Anna's like, oh, do I? Did she not know about me? And they're like, no, we wrote her a bunch of times. And Anna's like, well, maybe they didn't get the letters. And they're like, well, apparently she did because she didn't respond for a long time. And then she finally responded to say she couldn't take you. This is how we learn that Anna was raised in the convent.
Yeah.
Or whatever orphanage say that the convent maybe runs, right? So some sort of like Catholic orphanage or something, but that's where she's raised.
She came up in the holy system, as it were.
She did. Sure did come up in the holy system. So she packs a little suitcase and off she heads to meet this aunt, Wanda. So our first impression of Wanda is Anna going to her apartment, them meeting at the door. It's in the morning. Wanda is still like in her bathrobe. And there's just a real awkward, hi, are you Wanda? You must be my aunt. I'm about to take my vows. Mother Superior said I should come meet you. They go into the apartment. That's when we discover Aunt Wanda likes to play it loose and fast. She's chain smoking. We see a gentleman getting dressed who clearly spent the night with her.
Yeah.
Who's clearly also, although not stated initially, you figure out right away is no spouse or even
boyfriend
no significant other. It is a one night stand, or
he's a single serve lover.
Exactly. That's exactly what he is. Oh, and my favorite moment there is when he's like, all right, I'm off, realizes Anna's a nun or a novice, and is like, oh, God bless. And she's like, God bless you, because apparently what else are you going to do in that moment?
Right.
Which I loved that little exchange.
It almost made it less awkward.
It did almost make it less awkward.
Yeah.
So then we have this lovely moment where we just start to figure out who Wanda is. And we get a little bit more. We realize Wanda's very emotionally detached. Fully admits that she couldn't, but also didn't want to take in Anna as a small child.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
When you watch the film, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you right away speak with Agatha, right? The first Ida Agatha. Did you know it wasn't an actress before this film?
I did hear about that. Well, I read about that. Yeah. I thought that was so fascinating.
She was like reading a book in front of a cafe or something, and the director's like, "Yeah, you're the perfect person for this film."
Yeah.
And it turns out he was right?
Yeah.
Because she has to be sort of like not with the rest of us, right? Like she has to sort of be isolated, even emotionally, right?
Mm-hmm.
So filming a person like their first time on a movie set around people who've acted for a while, just looking shell-shocked, turns out was perfect.
Yes. Yeah.
But the first time you saw this film, there's a moment where she's dealing out pictures, Wanda, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mm-hmm. And she's saying, this is like almost like the family tree of where she came from. Because she sort of warms up to Ida little by little.
Right.
Because at first she's very much like, I know who you are. And she's annoyed that she's even there.
Yeah.
Did you catch right away when she said, there's a picture of her mother and father, with Ida, but also a little boy. And when she says to her, she was like, did I have a brother? And she said, no, you were an only child.
Oh, yeah.
I knew what we were in for the second she said it.
I know I use this phrase a lot, but it was a real Chekhov's gun moment for me. I was like, oh, this is happening. This is going to be a thing. It's going to be significant. We're going to find out. But I liked that you could tell Ida didn't really pick that up. Mm-hmm. We as the audience do, I think. And you're right. It was very subtle. So I could easily see somebody else watching it and just completely missing it.
There's a deep cut in that shot that I got to tell you about. Little Easter egg, as it were.
Okay.
So, like the family tree kind of goes back a ways, where you would see where you would think grandparents and great grandparents might be in this deck of pictures, right? Mm-hmm. One of the women that are in that pile is a woman named, let me get this name right.
I don't know that you need to worry about that. I clearly haven't gotten any names right tonight.
Oh, no, this one's important.
Okay.
More important than the people who played the characters.
Okay.
One of the women in that family tree is a woman named Irina Sendler.
Okay.
Not a hard name, right?
Mm-mm.
She worked in the municipal social welfare department in Poland, right?
Okay.
During the occupation. This is real life. This is in real life,
yep.
not not. So she had a team of women who figured out right away what these Germans were about to do. And as soon as she heard that her department wasn't allowed to hire any more Jews, and her department were firing the Jews that they had, she quickly started printing up fake paperwork and fake identities for every Jewish child in the Warsaw Ghetto.
Really?
Yes. So she was smuggling children out of the ghetto and getting them to Polish families that could adopt them, to orphanages and, yes, convents. And sidebar, no convent refused any of these children, right?
Nice. Yeah.
So how you see Ida come up is exactly how in real life a lot of these Jewish children who were smuggled out by Irina Sendler grew up and lived. And this is a real true story. I can't encourage this enough. Look up Irina Sendler because she was actually captured by the Gestapo.
Really?
She was tortured and beaten, but didn't give up a name, not a single name. She was ordered to be executed and narrowly escaped the day of.
Really?
Yeah. She didn't pass away until May of 2008.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's just a deep cut hidden in this scene.
That's such an interesting Easter egg that they put in there. Because the one thing you and I haven't said yet, as we've talked about this, is the immediate hard left turn that this film takes, which is when Wanda casually says to Anna, aka Ida, so you're going to become a nun. So Jewish girl becoming a nun. And Anna's like, I'm sorry, pardon? Didn't they tell you we're Jewish? You're Jewish. And
she had no idea.
She had no idea. Yeah. And Anna's not your name. And she's like, what was my name? Your name's actually Ida. It makes you wonder about Mother Superior's motive. That was this Mother Superior's way of being like, you need to know so you don't feel like you're being lied to. And then if you choose to take the vows and continue, or did Mother Superior just be like, no, it's good. It's good. You were raised, you're an orphan and you do have a living relative. You should go just say hello. So we don't really know what her motives were.
In the same conversation, you do learn that Ida's parents were killed.
Yes.
And the aunt tells her that, like, I know where they were hidden, and they were probably buried in the woods, and we can go find out for ourselves how they died. And then it sort of becomes like a road tripping movie.
Yeah.
Where the two of them pile in an adorable little car.
Yes. A Wartburg 311.
Oh, is that what it's called?
Yes.
Is that the model?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I thought that car was delightfully adorable. Yes,
I'm out here finding activists, and you're like, well, actually, the car. Nice.
We come at it from different directions, don't we?
Yeah. Look at us.
There was a East German automobile company called VEB Automobilwerk Eisenach. And and it was like from that particular model car. I mean, obviously they no longer exist now, but that model of car was made from like the mid 50s. Yeah, to the mid 60s. Yeah. If it's a road trip movie, it's got to have a good car that you're following. And it looks beautiful in all of the road tripping shots. It's like perfect.
Oh, well, every shot of this film, first of all, the way it's shot, everything's a static shot, right? It's almost like it's almost like he's taking a photograph that just happens to be moving.
Yes.
And sometimes the composition is more important than the subject, right? Because sometimes they look miscropped.
Yes.
In places, and that's, of course, intentional, but it is gorgeous to look at from beginning to end. Even the very, very beginning of the film, where you see the most hideous statue of Jesus you've ever seen in your life.
Right.
It looks like it's melting. Right?
It does. It's pretty painful to look at it.
But it is shot so incredibly. It's just an image you won't forget anytime soon. And it's in a scene where nothing is happening. It's just a transitional moment. But you won't forget that image once you see this film. The cinematography is that gorgeous. Yeah.
And I know we'll dive into that a little harder a little later, because everything about this way this film is presented is spectacular.
Yeah. So back to Wanda and Ida. They're road tripping. They're about to go find out, they're going to find where Ida comes from, what had happened to her family. There are moments that are like, hey, why don't you loosen up with the Jesus stuff? And she's like, if you go out there, maybe, what are you afraid? You might not believe in God anymore? How did she put it? It's a great line.
Oh, yeah. How did she put that?
She's like, what
But
if
it
you go
is-
out on the road and find out there's no God? That's what
Yeah.
it was. Yeah.
Yeah. But the whole road trip itself gives you this fantastic juxtaposition about these two women who have this connection that, you know, at least Ida never knew existed and Wanda knew existed but didn't care to participate in. And they're so very different. So, like you said, having a non-actress be Ida is perfect because she's never been outside the convent, really, right? So she's a
Right.
young lady. She's been raised by nuns. She's going to become a nun. She's literally very buttoned down. Her costume the whole time. Nobody outside of Ida herself really sees her without that novice hood on, right? The whole time, right? There's
The
a
habit.
point. The habit, yeah. So if she's
Yeah.
out, the habit is on, right? And Wanda even says at one point, you know, I bet you have red hair like Rosa, your mother.
Right.
It's a shame that you're hiding it, you know? So there's all these little things. And then, like you said, then you've got Wanda, who at this point, we know she's about vice. She's being presented as a lady.
I gotta tell you, I quit smoking 3 years ago. It'll be 3 years in April, right?
Mhm.
I never wanted a cigarette so badly. Watching a movie. I hate to cut you off like that.
No,
but
that's okay.
It's still bothering me how badly I wanted a cigarette. Watching Wanda
Really?
just slam them down one after
Because
the other.
she just chain smoking. She drinks tons of alcohol. It's clear that she's pretty much an alcoholic to a point where
Right.
we get to see the aftermath of a minor fender bender, which is also pretty presented
It's a really funny scene.
Yeah,
It's
really
actually
funny
a funny scene. Yeah.
And then, of course, you know, she's going through men like I don't know.
Like nobody's business.
Yeah, like nobody's business. Yeah. And then she's kind of saying these, you know, making these comments to straight-laced Ida. Like you said, the most interesting comment to me, of course, is when they're in the car and she's like, the vows don't really mean anything unless you're actually giving something up. And so it's basically like, you need to live a little so you know what you're giving up.
They do pick up a hitchhiker along the way
Mm-hmm.
who is a jazz musician,
Mm-hmm.
but oddly, like I got to say, just sidebar, white kid. He's meant to be like he's a good looking kid, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But he kind of looks really kind of straight laced in an annoying Vampire Weekend kind of way.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like he might have
Yeah.
boat shoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like his sweater collection's probably really. Well,
Yep.
It's probably
Mhm.
a lot, right?
Yep. Probably is a lot. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But again, like good looking kid, great cheekbones. You get what
Yes.
they're going for. This is going to be, a point of interest for Ida.
Right.
And the aunt is encouraging this. The aunt's like, essentially saying like, hey, why don't you give this a whirl?
Yeah. Yeah.
Life, but life being represented by the heavy-handed metaphor of the jazz musician in the back seat, who in no way looks like any jazz musician I've ever met. Yeah, so she's encouraging Ida to get out there and live. And by
Right.
live, she means, hey, why don't you get down with this, with
Cute boy.
cheekbones back here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheekbones in the back seat with his alto saxophone, which is clearly, what does she say? Masculine and sensual or something. And you're like, whoa, little on the nose, lady.
Yeah. Some metaphors are heavier than others.
Yeah, exactly. But at this point, I think it's important we also add, this is how this is being presented, but
Right.
we're already seeing that there's more happening. There's more to the story.
Yes. Although I will say, as you're watching this, there is an element of, they found each other. Like they're getting along, they're bonding, so there's that as well.
Right, right.
So there's a little bit of that in the film,
Which is nice. Just like,
Yeah.
you're right, like a little bit of a connection that maybe neither of them was expecting to have. It's hard to ignore the fact that both of them are almost portrayed in a stereotypical way, right? Like Wanda's a little too like the loose lady, right? I mean, she
Right.
literally at one point says, your pal Jesus literally loved ladies like me.
Right.
Literally loved Ladies Like Me, just so you know.
Well, there's one line. There was the one line where she was like, "Oh, well, you're so perfect and proper, and I'm just a slut." And I wanted Ida so badly to be like, "Well, your words, not mine." Like I wanted very much, just react to her once in a way where that she deserved, just because she was so on her case. I just wanted her to be back and be like, "Well, you said slut. I didn't say slut, but if we're gonna, if you want to stick." You know what though? I left the phone line on.
You did?
Hear.
Okay, yeah.
So we'll pick up from here.
Okay.
As long as this caller is for real.
All right, I'm ready.
Hello, Radio Free Rhinecliff.
Hello, Doug. Hello, Devon. This is Neil. I spoke to you many weeks ago, quite a while ago. I am so glad to hear you talking about this movie. This is great. I see Ida years ago when it first came out. I think 7 years ago, maybe more. I don't know. It was wonderful. I could not adapt for the play. So I could not adapt. It is not one of those things that would really go over in Rhinebeck Performing Arts Center, I don't think. But I did want to call you to thank you for the help that this program has done to bring my family back together.
What?
You went home? You got back together with your husband?
Mikhail, we have worked it all out. It's funny because I work so much in drama. He is a bit of drama queen, if you know what I mean. I hear him on the program. He says, "Oh, you should listen. You should listen. I sound so good." You don't sound so good. It was very nice of you to put us all back together.
Wow.
I feel that it was very nice of you to do that, and now we are family again. Everything is good. I am back at work. We are working on new thing and
at the Performing Arts Center in Rhinebeck, right?
Late at night. Yes, late at night. Sometimes,
of course.
Sometimes I will say they don't even know we are there. And that's the way we like it. I have special key. So we get in, we work. It's nice. Also, happy Casimir Polaski Day.
Yay!
Oh, wow. How do you know about that? Are you from Illinois?
Illinois. No, I am familiar. He is very famous. He is very famous for the Revolutionary War. He is of our people. Well, he was, same area. Very famous Polish. Very famous Polish man, and so we celebrate this all over. We say, hey, one of our boys, he's helping out to Forum America. He saved George Washington's life. He is
wow.
He is a very, very well known. So yes, happy Pulaski Day.
Well, full disclosure, Neil, I only learned about this holiday a week ago. Like Devon grew up with it. I only learned about it a week ago. I didn't know anything about it.
Devon, you celebrate?
Yeah, because I grew up in Illinois and we celebrate Casimir Polaski Day. So yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So you put on like the horse riding clothes because he is the father of the. I say this all the time. Cavalry. He is the father of the American cavalry. The horse rider people.
Cavalry. Yes, you are correct. Yeah, he is the father of the American cavalry. You're absolutely right. No, I won't. I don't dress up. But I did tell Doug earlier that we used to go bowling. That was a family thing that my parents did with some friends, and like my brother and my husband and I. Yeah, we would go.
They clearly weren't thematic about it.
No, we weren't thematic about it. Yeah. But that's how we celebrated the day. We'd all go out and go bowling. It was really fun.
You don't know. Maybe you bowl a better game if you dress up like Casimir Polaski. That'd be funny to see him on the lanes and bowl a strike. That's fun. Very good.
Now I feel like I've missed out by not doing that.
Maybe next year. Maybe next year.
Yeah.
Maybe a little mustache because the pictures I see, he's been on stamps. This guy.
Yes.
So.
Maybe your bowling shirt just says, says like Kashmir.
Yes.
Oh, very nice. Not Kashmir, Doug. Not Kashmir like Led Zeppelin Kashmir. This is Casimir.
Casimir. Pardon.
Casimir.
Right.
Yes.
Well, how are things at the Performing Arts Center, Neil?
I am kind of in kind of a pickle. We are besides ourselves. We are between shows of my group. I tell you last time we talked about my all-female theater troupe.
Yes.
We are. And so right now we are not working, but I have been hired to work on a show I am producing, kind of trying to direct, but some people, this is a one-woman show.
You don't say.
Earlier, I say that Mikhail, my husband, Mikhail, sometimes a bit of a drama queen.
Yeah.
This person that I am working with now is definitely a diva. Definitely a diva.
Oh,
a diva?
A diva.
Hard to work with.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, no, I
Hard
got
to work with.
Oh.
There are many things I want to say. Hey, this one-woman show she wrote it herself. She wrote this one-woman show herself. It means much to her. They bring me in to maybe jazz it up a little, to bring something to it. And so I'm thinking, hey,
Neil, when is the show? Just to make sure.
The show is, I think it's coming up. It's coming up very, very quickly.
Not March 8th and March 9th at the Performing Arts Center in Rhinebeck, right?
Yes, this is you know of
Gavin.
this.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Neil, is this diva named Heather Delamore?
Yes. Oh, you know of her. Oh, maybe I say too much. Maybe I talk too much. Maybe I'm not saying she's a diva drama queen. Maybe I say she's wonderful.
No, it's fine. You can tell us all about it.
Everyone should go see the show. It's wonderful. It's a one-woman show. She does lots of woman things. She talks about a lot of being a woman, which, what am I? How can I tell that? I'm not a woman.
I happen to know the show is called A Mother Stands Still.
Yes.
Well, it would be performed on March 8th and March 9th at the Performing Arts Center in Rhinebeck. And for more information, you can call area code 845-876-3080.
See, I believe when I first was told that the title of the play, her play, is The Mother Stands Still, I thought it's definitely a comedy. This was going to be lots of laughs.
Well, they were funny moments.
Because my mother, we would be running all over the house and we'd be running around my mother. My mother would stand still because this would be a great way to smack us as we go by. But this is not what this play is about. So if that is what you're looking for, do not look for the smack as you go by. Although it is a very, very interesting play. So yes, please go, please see. If you see her, if you talk to her after the show, tell her that you feel that Neil did a little something, that I helped out in some way. You say Neil was, I felt that I could feel that Neil was involved. She would like that, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we know Heather, so I definitely would agree.
Realizing this means when you go see the show, you will also see Neil. You guys could meet in person.
Are you going to go to the premiere, Neil?
I will be, but probably backstage, like a director producer does. I don't usually go up and sit in the audience because in most cases I cannot afford the seat. But I will be watching from backstage.
Okay.
All right.
Maybe you'll see me.
Well, thank you so much for calling in, Neil. I'm so happy about the update.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You're a dear friend of the show, as is your husband, Mikhail.
Yes. Please tell him and the children we said hello.
Yes.
I will. And thank you very much. And again, happy Pulaski Day.
Yay.
Happy Pulaski Day. Well, that was quite the update.
It is. I cannot believe that they got back together and they feel like we helped that. That's amazing. I'm feeling really good.
I really feel like this show improves the lives of all who listen.
Agreed.
And that's evidence of it. Evidence of it.
Absolutely.
Where were we in the film?
Oh, yes. We talked about the dynamic between Wanda and Ida and
Right.
kind of how they're coming at it from two different places. And then we're, like you said, we're starting to figure out that there's more here than meets the eye, particularly with the kind of stereotypes that the ladies almost seem like they're playing because they are being
Right.
little stereotypical Satan center. And so we're about to.
And it's intentional, right? Because it's going to take this turn.
Yeah.
So we think we're watching like this like bonding road film, you know, and it turns out as the stops are going along the way, Wanda is just shaking people down for information.
Yeah.
And she knows exactly where to go and how to talk to the people who are withholding said information.
Yep.
They're looking for this older man.
Yes.
After the son tells her that he's in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And they go to the hospital and he won't tell them anything.
What he tells them, I mean, is really general. It's very vague. Yeah, he doesn't really tell them anything of true significance at all.
I hid them, essentially.
Yeah.
They were good people.
Yeah, I hid them. I fed them. They were good people. That's it.
But what you learn is the son that was trying to keep the information from her in the first place actually murdered the family.
Yeah.
Murdered the husband, the wife, and a little boy who turned out to be, if you haven't guessed it already, Wanda's child.
Mm-hmm.
As they're learning all of this, because the deal was made, I'll tell you the information, I'll show you where they're buried. If you give up all claims to the house.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I guess, did they have a claim to the house?
Yes.
Is that how that works?
Yes. So basically, the house, the farm, belonged to Ida's parents. The parents owned the farm. But obviously, they are Jews in Poland. This is World War II. So essentially what happens is this Christian family comes in, they take over the house, they hide what's their last name? Liebensteins. So they basically hide the Liebensteins kind of out in the woods. And the father, the old man in the hospital, was essentially hiding them and taking care of them. Right. And that's how we also discover, it turns out Wanda was a resistance fighter. So she left her little boy with her sister, with Rosa. So the claim would be, technically, if the correct paperwork was found, I mean,
right.
It's not as though the house was ever sold to these people.
Right, because they still own it. Right.
Yeah, they still own it.
The son still lives there with his family.
With his family.
They make the deal, and he ends up digging up the remains so they can be moved to a family cemetery. It gets harder, right? Like, so like the remains go in the back seat. Wanda handles her son's skull at one point. So, and it's funny right about here. If you're wondering, like, why would you deal with a movie that with so much depressing content? Like, why would you to watch this? I got to tell you, every bit of this is intriguing. It's an engaging movie. Like, even with all of this, you're like, what an incredible film. Like, and it's what I love about this moment and what happens next. The last time we see the son, he's in the hole still. Having to explain to Ida that, you know what, the boy was circumcised and dark. I had to kill him, but I took you to an orphanage. Right.
Yeah. So basically this guy.
Or to the convent, rather.
To the convent. Yeah. So yeah, basically he's like, I did it. My dad didn't do it. I'm the one who killed them. You could pass. He literally says, you were so tiny, because you figure out she can't be more than 2, if that, when this all plays out. And he's like, you were tiny and you could pass as Christian, but he couldn't. So I killed him alongside your parents. And then he also breaks down in that moment, and you're kind of left wondering how you should feel. Because there's no real explanation as to why he murdered them. Other than...
You can make assumptions.
You can make assumptions. Because he could have just turned them in. You know what I mean? Like, if he was going to go down this ugly path, he didn't actually have to murder them to get the house. They were literally Jews in Poland in World War II. He could have just literally gone to the Gestapo and been like, hey, there's some Jews on my property. like it's just oppressive to think about that. And then on top of that,
Devon,
trying to figure out.
I have to explain something to the audience really quick. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Devon is always going to try to find the most efficient way to do things. And whether it's scheduling the podcast or getting rid of the Jews on your property, Devon's the person you talk to first.
I mean, it's true. Efficiency is the name of the game for me. But yeah, so trying to process, because you have no explanation,
right?
Why did he choose to murder them?
What is powerful about that moment too is as Ida's walking away at the remains, he remains in the hole he dug, sobbing, right? But there's no justice, right? Like a Western film might have handled that different. I don't want to say that either. Like maybe, sensibilities are different, or maybe that's just better storytelling. But there's no justice. There's no resolve. There's no interest in trying to find meaning in it, right? Like it's not Spielberg.
No,
right?
It is not.
It is what it is. This is what happened, and you can't change it. And you have to sit there and deal with that for a moment before they get back in the car with the remains and take it to the family plot.
And the fact that the girls don't even try, they don't say anything. They don't get physical. They don't attack him verbally or physically. They just take the remains and they walk away. They
do bury the remains in the family plot. Now they part ways. Ida's going to go back to the convent to take her vows. And she asks her aunt, will you go? To come see my vows. And she's like, no, but I'll wish you well, essentially. Right. And now Ida has now decided that she's at the convent and she's like, now she's been outside. So it's a little bit different. Like now she starts to see things a little bit different. There's an audible laugh that she lets out in the convent, which is looked at as if she like shat herself. Right?
Yes. Yeah. The look on those nuns' faces.
Yeah. Like, oh, right. So she tells that hideous statue of Jesus that she's not quite ready to commit yet. She watches her colleagues take this vow and she just starts to well up. And you see, that's the first and only time you really see a lot of emotion on Ida's face. Right.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Wanda is at the apartment. What is she listening to, Devon?
The Jupiter Symphony by Mozart.
And she's smoking a cigarette as she does. After a man has taken her home and he gets up and he's on his way out. She opens the curtains and like you see her like sort of bathed in light and you feel like, oh, maybe she's like going to sober up. And maybe she's like, because the light just gave the room a completely different feeling, right? She has the music going. And then she walks out of the frame. You get a static shot of the window. And then she just walks up to the windowsill and jumps out the window and kills herself.
And it's immediate. There's no pause. She's put on a coat and she just walks over, climbs on that sill, and it's like one fluid motion. She doesn't slow down at all.
I want to ask you, Deb, real quick. And as a listener at home, if you can indulge us even a little bit further for exactly 30 seconds, because I'm going to show something to my cousin. If you want to see what I'm about to show her, you can go to studiopropertyshow.com and go to the video section, because I will make sure that this video is up immediately. I'm going to ask you, is there anything about that scene that seemed familiar to you?
That seemed familiar to me.
What's the closest scene you might have ever seen where somebody just gets up on a windowsill and bounces?
I don't know.
Were you a Game of Thrones fan?
I've seen it.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I watched the whole series. I wouldn't say that I'm a huge fan.
Right. So you've seen the whole series, you said?
Yeah, I've seen the whole series.
So you remember when Tommen jumped out of the window?
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Can I show you something? I actually edited the two scenes together and lined them up. Yeah, and lined them up. So I'm going to show this to you really quick.
Oh, no. Okay.
So Tommen is on the right side. You got Mozart playing on the left side. Where Wanda is now turning the stereo up. They both now have walked out of the frame.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got a static shot of the two windows. One has the CGI of the burning temple in Westeros. The other is just Wanda's front yard, presumably. Now they're back into the frame, and out the window they both go at the same exact time.
Oh, that's so weird.
Isn't that wild?
That's wild.
Now, I don't want to say I will say inspired by, right? Probably inspired by Ida, because that is actually, that Game of Thrones scene is from an episode called The Winds of Winter, which aired on June 26th of 2016. So this is 3 years after Ida was released.
Okay.
They actually offered Agatha, I would just say the Ida Agatha, the role of the waif. So they're familiar with the film Ida at the very least. Right?
Okay, yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting because it felt familiar to me. And then when I looked up the scene, I'm like, this is exactly the same choreography. It's even shot the same way.
Like I said, I watched it. I like the books and I like the show, but I didn't love the show.
Well, the last season was garbage though. Yeah.
Right. And I was like, But you're
I didn't
absolutely
mean
right.
Dismissive of the season.
No,
right?
No. It's like,
of the show itself. It's a great show,
No, I know what you're saying. Like I said, and I'm not saying I didn't like it. I watched the whole thing, and I did like it.
They're out of the frame, and here they go at this almost the same time. They're back in the frame, and out the window they go.
Wow.
And that's actually cut down, right? That's the 30. That's the last 30 seconds before they're out of the frame. But the scene itself is almost a minute. You got like another 15 seconds where they're still sort of at the window,
right?
Presumably, like contemplating what they're about to do,
right? Well, and I guess that is interesting. I do wonder then, if the Game of Thrones is inspired by Ida, because that is the thing
scene
that
in Game of Thrones.
That scene in Game of Thrones. Yes, that scene in Game of Thrones.
Right. There's nothing Dungeons and Dragons-y about Ida.
Ida, no.
Ida's not walking around with a 12-sided dice or anything, right?
Right. No, but because I think what fascinated me so much about the scene in Ida is the fact that you're feeling it. You're feeling the moment ramp up because there's a reason it's there. There's a reason that they're just stuck on the window. I feel like every other version of some sort of suicide where somebody's going to do something like they did, like fall out a window, jump off a building, whatever, there always seems to be a pause. There seems to be there's always like
almost
a moment
like letting you know it's going to happen. Like, this is what's going to happen. We're doing this.
Right. Exactly. And that is not what happens in Ida.
No.
She's, like you said, she cranks up the stereo. We followed her because she was eating breakfast and she took a bath and she put her coat on. Like, there's just all these things, cranks up the music, and like she's in and out of frame. And then she just walks the window and there's no pause.
Yeah,
it's just literally
out the window.
It is just that much more impactful, I think, because we've been spending so much time talking about the story, but we haven't spent as much time talking about how the film is presented. And I think this scene is the culmination of how this whole film was presented. Yeah. Everything in this movie is intentional. There's nothing extraneous whatsoever. And it's nearly minimalist without actually being minimalist. So, as you say,
the editing choices are incredible, right? Like, like what's not seen is just as important as what you see.
Exactly. So we're in black and white. We are what's our ratio again?
4 to 3.
Okay. So the ratio is specific. So that way, again, it's trying to give you the feel of 1962, a film from 1962. The costuming, the set design, every moment, everything's so intentional. And then every shot, the way everything's portrayed, like you said, there's like a static feel, almost as though he's the cinematographer is, like you said, taking a photo that happens to be moving. There's no extraneous dialogue. Every word is important. There's nothing extra there. I mean, that's significant. And then the sound and the music are the same as well, where it's a minimal soundtrack. It's a minimal score. There's so much quiet. Yeah. And then when there is music, it is for a specific reason, like where she's playing her Victrola, right? I mean, it looks kind of like an old school, right? So she's playing the record.
That's me in my house. Mozart. That's just me in my house.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So you've got that.
Putting on Casimir by Led Zeppelin.
Exactly. There is a scene when they go first to see the farmhouse where the noise of, you hear the chickens clucking in the yard, and then the wife has like clothes that are, or sheets and stuff that are line drying, and the way they're whipping around and flapping in the breeze, and the sound of that, like the fabric snapping, like
right.
Every sound, every shot, everything that you see, everything you hear, every word that is spoken, everything is intentional.
So the misdirection, we'll say, I think that's fair. Mm-hmm. The presented idea that they could become a family is definitely dangled in front of you.
Yes.
And immediately just taken away.
Right.
Wanda just walks out the window. Of course, right after that, Ida goes back to the apartment, which I assume now is hers. Or she definitely has access to it.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, because she's the only living relative.
She's putting on Wanda's dresses after the funeral, right? We'll skip to this part because you should see.
We should also point out that at the funeral, you see a little smile on her face because you realize Liz, the alto saxophone player, has also shown up at the funeral.
Yeah, which is a little bit adorable. Right?
Yeah,
like he shows up at the aunt's funeral, and so she's at the apartment. Now, no longer in her habit. She's wearing her aunt's clothing. Mm-hmm. She ends up with cheekbones. They end up doing the deed, right?
Yes.
And then what's interesting is, I'm going to rush to this so we can have a conversation about it, right? The ending of the film, and we're going to, if you don't want to hear it, just turn this off now and come back. But note the time stamp. What ends up happening is there's an important conversation between Ida and Cheekbones where she says to him, like, hey, like, what's next, essentially? And he's like, oh, we'll get married. And then she's like, and then what? And he's like, we'll have some children. And she's like, and then what? And we'll get a house. And then what? Not necessarily in that order, but there seemed to be like a finality to the shopping list of the future would bring. And he falls back asleep, and she gets up, puts her habit on, and just pieces the F out. And the last shot of the film is her walking, presumably back to the convent. Although the buses are going by, and from her aunt's house, we know she had to be on a specific bus to get back to the convent, but she doesn't get on that bus. So it can be argued maybe she's not going to the convent, but we're definitely led to believe she is by the outfit that she's wearing. And she's returning to the convent, and then credits, right? Which, if you're certain viewers of the film could maybe feel dissatisfied that there's not like a full closure. If you don't, but then if you remember that the aunt had told Ida, as Devon pointed out, these vows don't mean anything if you haven't lived. Well, she did. She lived for a week or two, decided it wasn't for her, and now she's ready to go take her vows. She seems very certain in that moment too. Would you agree? As she's walking away?
Yes. Yes.
Whereas in the convent, she's like partially lit.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of shadow on her face. Like in this shot, you clearly see who she is. She's very confident about where she's going. Right?
Yeah.
What did you think of that ending?
I really enjoyed it for its mild ambiguity. I enjoyed that it's almost like a little nod to Wanda, because I think that, it really does seem like that's exactly what Ida's doing is, okay, it doesn't matter. The vows don't mean anything if I haven't truly given something up. And it's almost cute the way she tries cigarettes, chugs a bunch of vodka, clearly.
Right. Yeah. She tries all of her aunt's, recreational business. Yeah.
Goes out with the cheekbones, like without her,
I guess that's just
her
his
habit
name
on.
now.
I know.
Yeah.
Without the habit on, right? So like it's a big deal because it's the only time we see her with her hair out, where she's actually out in public.
I have a question. She's dancing with him, right? And her feet or like the Barbie movie,
Yeah.
right, where she's up on her tiptoes.
Yep.
Presumably because of the shoes she was wearing.
Well, she took it because there's also that little bit where she's sort of practicing in the heels because she's a nun and clearly she doesn't wear high heels. And so it almost comes across as he's also, Cheekbones is a bit tall. So I think there's also a little bit of clearly
is that
she's
what was
not
happening? Yeah,
I think so. Not smooth enough to dance in the heels.
Right.
Because clearly dancing is not something she's done, right? Like that's not something she's done. So I think she's a little bit on tiptoes so she can kind of reach him a little bit. And so it is sort of, this just like lovely her going, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna see.
Right.
And at the same time, like, you know, his response, like you say, his response is, you know, the usual things. Maybe we should get married, have some kids, get a dog, buy a house, you know, just like live life like a normal life.
I mean, he's captivated by her, clearly, as he pointed out to her in the middle of the film.
Yeah. He's definitely, that is one thing that I did appreciate, is that it's clearly not just like a one night stand for him. He is very drawn to her. He's very interested in her. He's not portrayed at all as like some sort of man whore or anything who's just trying to be like, I did a nun. I mean, that's not what's happening. He's very much interested in her. And she allows herself to be interested in, I guess you would say, right? Because that's certainly not.
Well, this is where it gets a little weird for me, right? Because I feel like you said, like, no, he wasn't that way. He was in that moment. He's definitely, you know, full on ready to commit to this person he's captivated by. Mm-hmm. However, he's a young traveling musician, right?
Right.
Who's not a chode. Right?
Yeah.
She's inexperienced. I feel like we run into the Disney princess problem, right? Where like, you know, like by like month 3, you're probably tired of explaining, like, you know, I'm sorry she was at the dinner table snorting krill. She's from the sea. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
You know what I mean? Like all the weird stuff that comes with, you know, being from a convent where she has no idea about human life. Outside of those walls, like after a while you kind of be like, oh yeah, well, she's so excited by the idea of, you know, soda. You know what I mean? Like,
yes, no, you're
she's
right.
Sniffing all the household cleaning products because she's never smelled anything like that before.
Right.
They use like pure soap made from animals or whatever they do with the convent. I'm just making stuff up, but you get the idea.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, and it's interesting too because, again, we didn't know much going into this, right? I mean, we picked it for a goofy reason, so we didn't really know much going into it. So I definitely did a lot of reading, and there are some interesting articles, and there was an opinion piece from like the year after it came out where basically this like a film studies professor basically says the whole thing's a cop-out. Because the director doesn't give you doesn't give you any like real opinion on anything that's going on, portrays the ladies in these very stereotypical ways, and then at the end, like almost like has them succumb to the patriarchy. And I guess I didn't see it that way.
I didn't see that.
I didn't see that.
I didn't. Ending up with the boy is that way.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Right. Like,
because I felt like the convent was a choice.
Yeah.
The convent was a choice.
And I don't. She's known. All of this has been thrusted on her.
And don't get me wrong, listeners make arguments all day long about, you know, the Catholic Church is run by a bunch of old white men. I mean, that's certainly something, you know, so it is patriarchy. We can certainly do that. But at least in this specific case, we never see a priest at that convent. It is nuns. We only see the ladies. We see the ladies. And I don't necessarily, I didn't think there was anything to judge about the way Wanda was handling her melancholy. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, she's literally lived at least, what did we say, 18 to 20 years, right? Well,
Ida or Wanda?
No, Wanda, because the movie's in 62. And so the war ends in 45. So we assume they died 44, 43, 44, right? Because it makes it kind of sound like later. So it's been maybe 20 years, if, at the absolute most, since the family, since Ida's parents were murdered, since the little boy was murdered, right?
Right.
So I feel like Wanda's been living with this. And then we also get all these little tidbits about how not only was she part of the essentially the communist resistance, but she was a prosecutor, and she prosecuted big things and literally
even sentenced people to death as well.
Yeah, tells Ida that happened. But never got married, never...
she was a judge.
Yeah, and then she was a judge. So she was, so she talks about being a state prosecutor, but then her last thing, we do realize she's a judge there. And she's clearly fallen from grace to a certain extent, because the case that we see her judging at the beginning is literally like a socialist, like this anti-socialist guy...
Right.
literally mowed down his neighbor's red tulips with a sword to make a political
I had to read
point.
up on that. I had to read up on the sword business, because apparently, like, every house, like of family blood, like with their land comes like a family sword. So that's actually a thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was weird.
So, but I mean, the fact that that's the kind of case she's presiding over, like, so
like she's essentially like she's like not. Let's say in the American equivalent of like a celebrity judge who did like awesome thing, not like Judge Janine or any of these weirdos, like or like former DAs of tiny towns that they have their own DUIs in. Look that up. But like she was like a big deal revolutionary who becomes like this really important judge, but she sort of drinks away her position, is what you're led to believe. She's like her lifestyle has led her a different direction. And you could tell, even by the way she smokes the cigarette the first time, that she's clearly self-medicating.
Yes.
And as it goes on, that becomes so much more obvious as we go along and as we get closer to these, even closer to the truth that leads us to the remains.
Right.
So hats off to the actress whose name I will not going to attempt to pronounce for that performance, because that's an incredible performance. It
is. It is. Yeah. It's really good.
It's almost as if Ida was an excuse to deal with what she was dealing with. Like Ida wasn't being sincere in getting to the bottom of this for Ida's sake. It's almost like, well, no, you know what? I'm gonna find out, because I didn't bother. I wasn't dealing with this myself. Right. Which is really way more interesting than these think pieces about how Ida should have explored her Judaism after she learns what had happened. Like, she was, in her mind, she was Jewish for exactly 4 days. And nothing about the outside world had offered her any kind of feeling of safety at all.
I liked that it wasn't heavy-handed. Because I think that's the other thing. So often, films with this specific type of content are so hard to get through because they're so heavy-handed. And I know why they're heavy-handed. Because it's a very real topic. It's a very real thing. I'm sorry, but genocide is never going to be a giggle when presented on film. It just... Right.
I mean, you can make one character red in a black and white background all you want to.
Right, exactly. Like, it is that topic. And so the fact that you
I didn't mean to knock Schindler's List. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to knock Schindler's List. That's a very, very important movie.
Right.
but heavy-handed nonetheless.
Right, but heavy-handed. And I just really appreciated this very small story about regular people who were affected, right? Because it wasn't the story of a rescue. And it's not the story of Schindler, who, granted did a huge, amazing thing, like literally saved lives. Because all too often of
course he profited from it and, maybe had sex with a lot of the Jewish females.
All right.
I mean, there's that too.
There's that too. Not gonna.
That's not in the movie, but it happened.
But
I'm not, no judgment. Just
No.
yeah.
But the fact that this wasn't a savior movie, it wasn't
Right.
It wasn't the I Have to Survive movie. It wasn't the boy in the striped pajamas. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't that. It was literally, no matter how far removed you think you are, you're not really that far removed when something on that scale has happened.
Right. And also, like, the answer isn't like a distant relative and a little bit of D. Like, that's not the answer
Yes.
either.
No,
right?
you're absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah.
So her making that decision is her self-actualization. And you know, and you don't know which way that's going to go, but it's also open for you, right? Like, what would you think would happen? Which,
exactly.
I'm going to use to set up whether I'm right or wrong because it's your turn. America and Poland's favorite new segment. Let's franchise this, baby. So, if this is the first time you have tuned into the show, this is the part of the episode which is hopefully doesn't run longer than the actual movie.
Yes.
Because it is a really short movie. But it clearly made an impact. But this is the part of the show where we make new content out of the content we were talking about. Well, I'm going to be that dick and just talk about film. It's content. It's content.
Right?
You know,
content, yes.
But we repurpose it to its most profitable potential. Is that fair?
Or, in your brief summation, cash money hose.
Because if my cousin and I are anything, it's we cash money hoes. All right, Devon, let's see what you've come up with because it was your turn this week.
Yeah. Okay.
Are we doing a sequel? Are we doing a prequel? Are we doing a musical? Are we doing a play?
We're doing none of the above. Okay. Oh, I'm going down a different road. So this film is nearly perfect in its presentation. Okay. So from a story, there's nothing else to tell. There's nothing else that I want to know. I don't need to have some backstory.
You don't need
about
Ida back in the habit. You don't need.
Yes,
you don't need Ida 2.
No,
right?
Don't need Ida 2. I mean, I even when I was trying to put this together, I was like, do I want to run into Cheekbones in 30 years and see what happens? No, I don't. I don't want Ida back in the habit. I don't want Wanda's prequel. I don't want to go through. I don't want that
either.
I don't want to go through.
I'm glad you chose none of these things.
So I was like, from a story standpoint, absolutely no. There's nothing to be touched. What I do think can be repurposed is the presentation. And I know we already talked about this, folks, but like it's minimalist while not being minimalist. Everything has a purpose. It's deliberate. It's intense. It is, as my hubby would call it, cinematique, right? It's what's the phrase you always use? It's art, darling. Like that's
art, darling. It's art.
Right? That's how it felt to me.
It's wonderful.
It's so good. And so my thought was, that's what I would want is I want that presentation, but I don't want this story. I want to keep the crew. And I'm going to butcher their names one more time. I want to have this type of presentation. I want it directed by
I'll translate.
Pavlovsky.
I'll translate their names. Yeah. Paul, you want Paul to direct it?
I want Paul to direct. Lucas Zoll, our cinematographer, and
Luke, obviously Luke.
And Rizard Lenchuski.
Good time, Robert. Yeah.
Good time, Robert. Rebecca Linkovitz for a screenplay.
Oh, yeah. Rebecca the Nose, they call her on the street.
Damn right they do. And then, of course, music and score by Christian Eidnes Anderson.
Christy the Hun. Yeah. I
don't
even want to know why they call him that. Yeah, it's weird. Weird.
So I want that crew and I want this type of film. So then I just had to ask myself, well, what story would work with this type of presentation? What's the story I want with this presentation? And I got to tell you, I really thought about it and I was like, I don't know. And so then you
just want them to make a different movie? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but I want it to be, I want this. I want no CG. I want black and white. I don't want CG. I don't want effects.
You don't want CG. You don't want Ida in the multiverse?
Yes, I don't want Ida in the multiverse.
Is it going to make us a lot of money, your story? Because it sounds like
I hope so.
You're doing it sounds like you're just hiring the same crew to tell a different story.
Basically. And so you want to know what movie I want them to make?
Please tell me.
I want them to do Gaslight.
Oh, okay. But an American version.
No, I want it to be British. I want like the original Gas. Yeah. I want it to be very British. I mean, I know
that makes sense because the director is he does live there.
So basically, I was like, this is my opportunity for Gaslight because we did not franchise Gaslight, and I was like,
oh yeah, we didn't have the segment back then. Oh,
we didn't have the segment,
our
right?
Whole series, yeah. Look at that.
So we do, because I feel like Gaslight could be remade, but part of the beauty of those both original versions of Gaslight is it works for this. Because it should be. It's about a lady.
I see it though. I especially because the 40 version has a lot more of shots that are more conducive to this cinematographer.
Exactly.
Than the 44 version even. Mm-hmm. Like the 40 version is a little more artful with the with the cinematography.
Again, music and sound will be intentional. Dialogue will be minimal. And it's a story that works with all of that. I think it works with all of that. I really do.
Did you cast this thing? Or you just
Oh no, I cast it. Oh no, I cast it.
Okay.
Once I realized that was the movie I thought should be done. Okay. Oh no, I cast this bad boy. Are you ready for me? Okay.
This is okay. It's weird because I always think I'm being clever or sneaky when I backdoor sequel something. But this is a wormhole. Like you you created a wormhole. Yeah.
Damn right I did. All right. So clearly we all know I'm keeping my crew. So my cast. Gregory Anton / Serge Bauer.
Yep.
I have two options. I've got an older option and a younger option because I felt like an older man maybe worked because I feel like if he's a criminal, he would have been around a bit more, right? Around the block a few times. But then I was like, she's also, our lady is also pretty young. So maybe a younger guy. So my older
doesn't really matter in the 40s though? Are we doing period? By the way, that's actually,
we're doing period. So it's got to,
so the girl's got to be like a teenager and he's got to be like 90.
Right. And remember, we're looking like 1890s. I mean, it should be.
Oh, so Steven Tyler is clearly going to be. Sorry.
Well, the other thing I really thought about when I was picking on my people is part of the beauty of this style of filmmaking is you've got to have an expressive face. Because so much is just being told by reaction. So it's got to be people that can do that can handle not a lot of dialogue. Right. So
that's probably part of the marketing also that I think we lean into, right? Mm-hmm. Like how
for sure.
Didn't they make a silent movie like 10 years ago or something?
Yes. The Artist. Yeah.
Yeah. So they made The Artist. Yeah. So we kind of do something like that where it's like, look, we're doing a novel thing, but it's actually really good.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my God.
That's cool.
You totally get my idea. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dirty Rotten Marketing. I'm all about it. Yeah.
All right.
That's what we do.
So Matthew Rhys is my first pick.
Oh, nice. Nicely done.
Because the Gregory / Serge character has got to be charming and be able to love bomb this young lady while at the same time have this very insidious underlying character to him.
Oh man,
so got to be able to do both.
Perfect for that. Like in his prime, Raul Julia would have been perfect.
Oh, he would have been so good. Oh,
yeah. My parents actually had a fight over him one day. True story.
Really?
Yeah. My mom was like watching like probably The Addams Family or something. She was like, I always loved Raul Julia. My stepfather was like visibly jealous. It was hilarious. And I guess they repeated this again, like when the sequel came out. So like. I don't know why I remember. I'm sorry. Keep going.
That's awesome.
I'm still stuck in my head.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so if you like Matthew Rhys, I'm not even going to give you my young selection because I don't even think it matters.
Yeah.
Paula Alquist Anton.
Paula.
I was going to say, Rhys has got to call her Paula the whole time.
Yes.
Emma Corrin.
Where do I know her from?
She was young Princess Diana in The Crown.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm aware of
Right?
it. I saw the trailer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then did you ever see
I tend to stay away from that stuff.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't. I mean, I've seen clips, but I mean, that's like I know her that she's in that, but I never watched it. Murder at the End of the World.
I don't understand the fascination with the royal family, like at all. Like I don't get it.
I don't know.
And I was around for like the first marriage, right? Like the
Right.
whole
Right.
I think it was like the same week Luke and Laura happened. I'm like my brain is
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You just pulled that right out.
Yeah.
Also,
well, I'm old, you see.
I was going to say, the fact that I also understood your Luke and Laura reference does point out that
it's a big deal at the time.
Yeah. I'm like, you're older than me, but not by a ton.
No, not by a
because
ton.
I knew that. Not by a lot. Because I was like,
my mom told me that
Laura.
story, not my grandma. So it's not that
right.
far. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But I just thought, she would be petite, young, kind of frail, right? Like, she's got to have that, like, she's got to look like she can be broken.
Okay. Yeah, this
you know what I mean?
It's a total 360 when 180. Right? Yeah, it's 180. Yeah. So it's a total 180 when Paula turns the tables.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the deal. Yeah, that's the deal. Yeah.
So, I think it works. Did you see that mini series Murder at the End of the World?
I didn't.
Okay, she's in that. She's quite good. Who Clive Owen's the main guy in that. You'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
I feel like. Yeah.
You know I do a show every week. I don't actually have time to watch things that aren't assigned to me now.
That is that is fair. That aren't homework movies.
Right. That I just end up loving.
Right.
Because I have nothing else to compare them to. That's probably that. It's the only entertainment we get now.
It's true. It's really true. Oh my goodness. Okay. So who else is in this movie that's significant? Brian Cameron, aka the cop. We're gonna rename him. He needs a better name.
Like his name sucks.
But I think John Boyega.
Okay, yeah, I like John Boyega.
Right? Because I feel
he's
like
also very British in real life.
Right? He's very British in real life. And he kind of has like, I think what I like about that character is he's a little plucky. You know what I mean? Because he's like, Then, of course, we have to have Miss Thwaites, a.k.a. the gossipy neighbor.
Oh,
and remember her? And I
remember what her nickname was? Remember in our version, she was a murder crime podcaster.
Bloodthirsty Bessie. Bloodthirsty Bessie. Yes.
Yeah. That has to remain canon. Yeah.
I did some real work because I was like, whoever plays her needs to be a line between like a lady that's a little older, but I didn't necessarily want her to be old, but she's got to be like appropriately gossipy while also trying to be a proper lady. Like that whole thing.
Like you.
Like, like me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
So I'm thinking Miranda Hart.
Ooh. Right? That was nice. There's part of me, it was like, what? There's part of me, it's like, okay, you did such a left turn that I'm like, this is, I'm trying to see the money, but then the marketing sold it for me and I'm still kind of like, but then you make a casting choice like that. And I'm like, you know what? This is a good idea. I like it.
Right? I think it
of course, now you're forcing new listeners to have to go back and listen to the Gaslight episode.
Yep.
Which is,
sorry, folks. Gonna have to do it.
Early days. Yeah. That's our early stuff. That one's off our fourth album, Houses of the Holy.
Exactly.
Right.
All right. So then there's only two more people. Elizabeth, the cook. Mm-hmm. And the only problem is she legitimately needs to be older. Because remember, half of her whole shtick is the fact that she is deaf. Because that's the only way all of this works.
Oh, right. So that could, I mean, you don't have to get too fancy with that one, but go ahead.
I went with a gal by the name of Geraldine James. Classic British TV lady. Like, if you look her up, it's one of those where I'm not going to name any show or anything where you're going to really recognize her. But if you Google her later, you'll be like, oh, I've totally seen her and stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I think she can do the proper, like, because, right, it's a proper household staff, 1890s, needs to be pretty much stone deaf, but also have a real soft spot and concern for the lady of the house.
Right.
So there's a little balance there.
Right. Now who plays our girl?
Our girl. Okay. So that was where I had trouble, and I thought you could help me out.
I got it. If you need it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because I was just like,
ready?
Who's the... Yes. Yeah.
This was going to be my Ida, actually. So this works.
Okay.
Sadie Sink.
Oh, yeah.
From Stranger Things, yeah.
That's okay. I'm putting her on the list. That's perfect.
All right. That's good. That she was going to be my Ida. Yeah.
No, she's perfect. Okay.
Of course, we're talking about the roles, if you don't know, that we're talking about the role that was originally played.
Oh, by one Angela Lansbury.
Yeah. And, a young Angela Lansbury, like a 16-year-old.
And again,
Angela Lansbury.
Folks will have to go back.
18-year-old?
17, because remember, she
17.
turned 18
she turned
on the
18.
show, or while she was making the movie, because the scene where she smokes,
right, couldn't
happen until after her birthday, legally.
Yeah.
So this maid, she is like a Cockney maid. She dates around a fair amount. She flirts overtly
with the master of the house, and also has a penchant for beat cops.
Yeah, has a total thing for beat cops. I wasn't even worried, right? I wasn't worried. I was like, Doug's going to help me come up with Nancy the maid.
Yep.
So be honest.
Yeah.
Does this work? Did I do all right?
It was sneaky, right?
Uh-huh.
I do like this same crew making Gaslight. I think that's an incredible move.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a cheat? Were you playing dirty ball? Absolutely. Absolutely. But you know what you didn't do?
What's that?
You didn't do what I would have done for the Cash Money Hose. For the purposes of Cash Money Hose, right?
Okay.
Which would have been to do what American filmmakers did to Wings of Desire, right? Where they made that crappy Nicolas Cage City of Angels movie, that piece of shit.
Yes.
With that Goo Goo Dolls song that wouldn't go away. You know?
I actually like said Goo Goo Doll song. Don't tell anybody.
We're not going to ever talk about that. We're never going to talk about that. Ever. I would much rather you admit to loving meth. But that being said, like, I thought this was the route we might go, right? To make, to make the money off of like a great concept, right? That Vin Vendors had with Wings of Desire, and just make it like the McDonald's piece of crap that City of Angels was. And I was ready for it. I was ready. Yeah. Like, I had like, because Wanda had to be a really great performance, right? It had to be an older-ish actress who maybe needed the comeback role to be like, oh, you've never seen her like this, and oh, by the way, she's going to sweep the Oscars, right?
Oh, okay.
So I had 3 choices for Wanda. Now, mind you, these are all incredible actresses, but you know they're not as young as the things they've done that they've been known for. But if they came back in this whole other context, again, money. And definitely a lot of ink would be spilled on this automatically without our press people or that much of a budget.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Very rotten marketing indeed. Jennifer Connelly was my first choice.
Oh, that's good.
Winona Ryder was my second choice.
Yes.
And my dark horse definitely auditioned Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Those are all good.
Yeah, so that's what I thought we were going to do if we were going to do like the horror-ish American version.
Got it.
But I love your Gaslight. I want to see that made now, like by this guy.
Right, because I just think it will be
by Paul Jones.
Yeah. But if it'll just be like, I was like, oh, and like I said, Ida was it's too beautiful to ruin. Because you're right. Because I mean, I mean, I was totally prepared to ruin Amelie. That's true, you were.
Yes. I was prepared to just wreck it. And we did.
Yeah.
And we did. Our remake is a little different.
Right. I do think like that is one of the discoveries of mine, at least, as we've been hitting these different movies and for, for franchising, let's franchises, comma, baby, is I have a hard time. If I think it is perfect as is, I don't want to mess that up. I don't want to touch it. And so that's why I feel like I keep doing this whole like, all right, so what would I do? You know what I mean?
Well, my escape route when I find myself in that position, and I did Anomaly, right?
Yes.
Like was, okay, what would Americans really do?
Yeah.
With that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That wouldn't just be them. Because first of all, they would be accused of just ripping off, because that's all Americans know is Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
Because his style is very similar.
Right. Yeah. So you're absolutely right.
Right. So we had to go like street level.
Yeah.
Right. Like, listen to the episode if you don't know what we're talking about. Whereas like, House of Yes, when like, how do you remake that? Like, again, to your point, like we get cornered and we just try. Half the fun is finding a way out.
Right.
And then finding a way to make American money by doing
exactly.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, So you're right. I 100% cheated today. I absolutely, I deflated that football. I did.
You did. You did, but but you're out here making art.
Yeah, that's right. But I'm out here making art. And so I was just like, all right.
Again, regardless of how we got here, we did suggest a movie I definitely want to see get made.
Yeah.
Right?
Yay! Success!
Well, that is our show for this week. It might be longer than the actual movie, but it needed to be. It needed to be. Next week, we are doing a movie I'm very, very excited about. And I'll warn you, Devon, a lot of it is uncomfortable. There are uncomfortable things.
Okay. Thank you for the heads up.
Well, it's a gangster film written and directed by a woman who clearly sees who these people were. And they're not like the sort of glorified, not the glamorized Goodfellas, which is, masterpiece, that movie, right? But like they're glamorized a little bit, right?
Yeah.
It almost looks fun being them, right?
Yeah.
Or The Godfather, no. These are the low level, not even bookies, right? Like the errand boys of the mob, the neighborhood mob, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're doing Mikey and Nikki, starring John Cassavetes and Peter Falk, directed by Elaine May, one of the greatest humans that we ever got to share air with.
Yep.
So she's still with us, and I can't wait to talk about her, the film, and everything around it. Also, we're going to be joined by Mikey Percoco.
Yes, Mike's going to come back, bring back his film Wikipedia brain to help us out.
You know what? You can watch it on the Criterion channel, or you can just go to YouTube. I think the whole thing's on YouTube, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Hold on. I also believe, if I recall correctly, Mikey and Nikki, isn't that also on? Yes, it's also on Prime. It's on Criterion Prime or YouTube. You have options this week, folks.
Yeah.
No excuse not to pre-watch it for us.
But yeah, so I'm excited to get to that next week. But we better get out of here. We're your studio property. My name is Doug Wartell.
I'm Devon Irby.
And scene.